Hello, my name is Ryan Smart. In this video I'm going to be looking at the ways that globalization has affected Lagos, Nigeria. And throughout the globalization process I'm going to be analyzing kind of the ways that it's related to the urban planning issues that they've been having recently in Lagos. The reason I decided to pick Lagos is that I think it's an excellent case study. It's kind of exactly what we've been talking about in class as an example of a sub-Saharan African city which is on the verge of becoming a metacity with over 20 million people. And the region as a whole in its urban centers is experiencing 4.58% growth, and Lagos is actually quite a bit more than that. So it's a very interesting case study of the region, and it's kind of an epitome of the urbanization of developing parts of the world in general. So that's why I decided to focus on Lagos.
Well, as I just mentioned, Lagos is in sub-Saharan West Africa, and as you can see on this map, it is in the southwestern corner of Nigeria, and it is the largest city in Nigeria. And given that it is the largest city in a country with 150 million people, it has been facing some pretty severe issues in terms of population and population growth in the future. As you can see from this map, the structure of Lagos is pretty spread out, pretty sprawled. The main part of town and kind of the origin of the town is down on the waterfront, which is now the central business district. However, in the past 30 to 40 years, the town has become increasingly large and sprawled out. The metro area has about 20 million people, with a population growth rate of 8%, which equates to 600,000 people entering the city every year. To put that in perspective, that's about 10 times the growth rate of either New York or Los Angeles. And Lagos is projected to be the third largest city in the world with 25 million residents by 2015. One of the major problems for many of the cities in the developing world is the prevalence of the informal economy and kind of the way that that impedes economic growth. 80% of the workforce in Lagos exists within the informal economy. As you can see here, there's a woman in the informal economy adapting to the fact that it's Christmas time and selling fake Christmas trees on the street. And in general, about 2/3 of all of Nigeria's GDP comes from the informal economy. However, as you can see kind of from this view of the skyline and just the fact that there is a skyline, the formal economy still plays a large role in the city, at least relative to the role it plays in other like cities in other parts of sub-Saharan Africa. So as a result, you kind of get this mix between both the formal and the informal economy, which coexists. I think this is probably the best illustration of that. This is in the heart of the central business district, and you can see the skyscrapers and the cranes in the background. And in the front of the picture, in the foreground, is where an informal market has sprung up due to a vacancy in a lot. Another phenomenon and a major urban planning issue potentially in many of the developing world is the fact that there is accompanied with population growth a growth in cultural diversity and the diversity of the people. And as you can see, Nigeria has a lot of different ethnicities and a lot of different tribes within the boundaries of the country. And Lagos, given its kind of status as a business district and a business hub for the country and for the region in general, gets a significant amount of ethnic diversity. There's also a little bit of a religious divide. as people who migrate from the north tend to be predominantly Muslim, and the southern region in the country is mostly Christian. So you have a little bit of a religious juxtaposition as well. One of the things that kind of makes Lagos a unique case to study is the impact that oil has had on the city and in the country in general. In this picture you can see several oil tankers going through the port of Lagos. Oil and petroleum account for 90% of all foreign exchange earnings for Nigeria, so oil is a very influential commodity within the political system and within the developmental stages of the country. The money associated with the oil trade has inevitably led to corruption, which in many ways has led to severe wealth inequalities. In Lagos, 2 out of every 3 people live in slum conditions, and a lot of that is attributed to the wealth inequalities which have been spurred through the petroleum industry. Another urban planning issue referenced by the United Nations is the concept of the youth bulge, in which when you have a city with an increasingly large population, there will be an increasing proportion of that population which is youth or young adults. One of the major effects, as cited by the United Nations, of having a increasingly younger population is that you're liable to have more social movements and calls for social change. And as you can see in this video, this is a video of the day after a large religious rally with over 250,000 attendees, and the vast majority of those were under the age of 30. Another major issue in Lagos is figuring out ways to try to collaborate the green agenda and the brown agenda within the city. Like many other developing nations and cities, it's very difficult sometimes to talk about environmental sustainability when the country is still dealing with some very basic human infrastructure needs. As you can see here, there's a pretty sincere water scarcity which has been plaguing the city for a while. However, one of the positive benefits of having such a petroleum-reliant industry in your country is that it's a vested interest of the petroleum companies to maintain the local infrastructure. So there are a very good expressway system which probably rivals anything else within West Africa. In 2008, Lagos actually just completed a bus rapid transit system, and although this picture makes it seem a little chaotic, it's actually a very well organized system with the capacity to get you anywhere within the city for a very cheap price and in a short amount of time. Like many developing cities, there's a lot of uncollected trash and waste within Lagos. However, unlike many other developing cities, there's been a very visible effort within Lagos to try to take care of the problem. So Lagos is a city that faces a lot of urban planning challenges. From the fact that it has this incredibly sprawling population that's growing at 8% a year, to the fact that it has a very informalized economy, and the fact that it has cultural and ethnic diversity, which may pose some problems, the reliance of the country on the petroleum industry and the corruption and the wealth inequalities which have been associated with that, the increase of the youth population and the factors and the potential dangers of that, and trying to bring together all these different agendas and stuff. It's very difficult to do, and Lagos has a lot of work to do, but the fact that there has been some progress allows for the ability to have some optimism in the future and for the city's ability to try to take care of some of these problems.